Dr. Allan Bacon. Dr. Allan Bacon. Is that you?
It is. Thank you for having me on, Bricklin. Can I use your full first name?
Oh, absolutely.
Excellent.
Yeah, you can call me Brooklyn. That's fine. That's fine. Welcome to Rep and Fitness.
Brick Headstrong! Brick Headstrong! He's got the reps to you! He's got the reps to you! Brick Headstrong!
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate the invitation, and hopefully we can get some good answers for people that are looking to start out in fitness for the first time.
Oh, I totally agree. I think this is going to be a great episode. And you want to know why?
Why is that?
I have never met the PhD of bacon before. This is incredible.
It's a very specific education, and hopefully it translates to fitness. We'll see.
Now, what do you learn about in school for bacon?
I mean, mainly things about Sizzlin. You know,
Oh,
nutrition is a minor, but yeah, I mean, Sizzlin is the main focus on that one.
Were you sizzling at the gym today? Did you go to the gym?
I have not. I live in Hawaii. It is 7:00 in the morning here. I know that
Whoa.
is lazy of me to not get in and having gone to the gym today, but believe it or not, this is actually my rest day. And that's one of the fun times that I get in with these podcasts and meet, experts like yourself. And yeah, I usually train about 4 or 5 days a week, but today is one of those days where I let myself recover.
So you'll be back there tomorrow?
I will be back tomorrow.
What's tomorrow going to be?
Tomorrow,
Where are you working?
Tomorrow is legs. I am focusing on quads specifically. So a lot of squat work, a lot of lunges, a lot of crying.
Not for me. Not for me.
You love legs?
I don't do that stuff. No, I mean, I got legs. I just don't like doing them. I just don't like doing them because people trick me. They put legs in my program. Then later in the week, there's a lower body day. What's the difference?
I think that sounds like a scam.
That's a scam.
Yeah.
You're right. Well, anyways, I'm glad we're on the same page about that. Do you remember the first time you worked out?
I do.
Going to the gym?
I do remember the first time that I worked out. I was
Tell me about that.
Well, I was 16 years old, and I was playing high school sports, and I'm 6'1", and I was 165 or 170 pounds. And for people that are 6'1", you can kind of identify with the fact that that's a little light. And I wanted to make some changes. I wanted to be a little bit better in sports. I wanted to be, feel a little bit more confident and feel a little bit stronger. And so I started getting into the gym, and it ended up being a lifelong love for me, and has
me too.
I mean, we're on the same page. You've got a lot more tank tops than I do, and you fill them out a little bit better. But these are some of the benefits that you get from it. And so for me, I think that this was a really great thing that really affected both my health and my path forward in life.
Now, this is Rep and Fitness, so I have to ask you about reps, okay? You're going to the gym tomorrow. You're going to be doing legs.
I am.
What kind of rep ranges are we in?
I like to stay mostly in about 4 to 10 for most of my workout sets. Yeah.
A strong boy.
Yeah,
Nice.
I try to stick it out. So my main focus whenever I'm doing these types of things is to build strength and build a little bit of lean muscle mass. And if you look at information that's out there, I mean, anything from about 4 to 30 reps works really well if you are pushing close to failure at the end of your sets. If you're working really hard, it's all going to work out really well in the end. So when I say I like to stick to 4 to 10 reps, I like to do that because it tends to work a little bit better for strength overall than some of those higher reps. But it also gives me a chance to be a little bit lazy, and I don't have to fight through those 30 reps. So if you're a person that enjoys higher reps, you can certainly do it and get some very good progress. And the great thing about that is it means you've got some choice. You get to choose what is fun for you. So if you're just getting into the gym, you're just starting out, you enjoy working 12 to 15 reps, you can say, you know what? I'm not going to agree with Dr. Sizzlin on this one, but at least I get to go in and I get to do what I like, and I get to enjoy myself.
I like that you used that name because I was trying to think, what should I call him? Dr. Sizzlin the rest of the way through.
I'm a pro.
Now, Dr. Sizzlin.
What's that?
I told you we were going to talk about going to the gym for the first time, and we're going to get to that. But before we do that, you've been to the gym more than once, right?
Couple times.
And in those times, I think it's important people know this. What's the most embarrassing thing that's happened to you while you're at the gym? What are we thinking?
We're gonna always go back to leg day for some reason. I mean, I was squatting deep one time and I had my pants rip, and so that's always a fun thing to have in the middle of a gym, and it emphasizes the number one training point that I like to point out: always make sure you're wearing clean underwear.
You mean where did it rip? In the back?
Ripped in the back. It definitely did.
Oh,
yeah, it did on the way down, ripped in the back. And these types of things happen in life, right? So if you're somebody that has this happen to them, don't worry about it. Get a good laugh out of it. Nobody is going to remember this type of thing in a year, but maybe they will, maybe they'll point it out, but it's always in good fun. And yeah, these are the types of things you can kind of expect sometimes when you're pushing it really hard.
That's my worst nightmare.
Oh, it happens.
I don't want that to happen.
Well, we've already decided that you're not going to train legs twice a week, so you've got 50% of a chance for less to happen now.
Well, that's true. But all kidding aside, we want to help some people today. First time at the gym, right? For someone brand new going to the gym for the first time, what should they bring with them? How can they feel prepared?
I mean, I think that the best thing that you can possibly do is wear comfortable clothing, wear some nice shoes. The big thing that I will point out is if you're going to get into lifting weights regularly and lifting heavy, you want some hard, flat-soled shoes. The running shoes that you typically wear for going off your jogs, probably not the right shoes to wear if you're going to get into lifting weights regularly. So that's the biggest thing that I think most people who are starting out don't realize. The different shoes make a big difference. Particularly when you're lifting some heavy weights and you want to stay stable, having those hard, flat-soled shoes can make you much more stable at your ankles. And so that can make it much more comfortable when you're doing lifts, because a lot of times with the people that I work with, when I see beginners, they'll go in wearing these shoes that have all of this extra padding. And then when they're trying to do things like lunges, they're trying to do things like squats, they're feeling unstable as they're doing the workout. If you know that this is an issue, you can wear the right shoes, you can feel a lot more comfortable, and then you can get to the point where you're like, wow, I understand why it felt uncomfortable for me to start out before, and it wasn't anything wrong with me. It was just I didn't know that this was probably not the right equipment to wear for it. So if you don't have those hard, flat-soled shoes, you can always pick up something like the Converse Chuck Taylors. They're about $30 or $40 or something like that. And
Brick's got a pair.
They last forever, right?
Well, not ever. Usually I got to get new ones every year. They usually just fall apart.
This is a good excuse for different colors too, right?
That's true. It's true. I'm on black right now, but I wear black a lot. But anyways. Dr. Sizzlin, is this why I see a lot of people lifting barefoot? Do you think that's why?
Yeah, exactly. You will see a lot of people lifting barefoot, and a lot of times it's because they feel that that's more comfortable for them, and maybe they wore those shoes with the extra padding that day, and they decide, hey, it might be a little bit better for me to go barefoot, feel a little bit more stability in some of my heavier lifts, and then I can go back to my running shoes for some of the ones that I don't need quite as much stability for. And they do it that way too. So if you're in a gym that allows you to go barefoot or allows you to work in socks and you don't have the right shoes, that's a great alternative that you can make, Brick.
Well, that's a great point. Now, I was just thinking.
What's
gym etiquette.
What's on your mind?
Right? There's rules going to the gym. You go to Planet Fitness, they tell you can't yell. I can't lift heavy things and get my work in, or else an alarm's going to go off, right? But that's a little extreme.
That's a bit extreme.
Are there other things I should be aware of before I start my first day at the gym? Like, what are we thinking?
There are certainly things that if you are an experienced lifter, you kind of expect of other people in the gym. And when we talk about gym etiquette, this is one of those things that, just like in life, you're being considerate of other people. Right. And if you're considerate of other people, everybody in there loves you. So these are the types of things that we focus on. Putting your weights away whenever you're done using them, cleaning up benches whenever you have sweat or something like that on them. Usually there are wipes around the gyms these days that can allow you to grab one and just wipe something down after you're done using it. The other things that you look out for are not taking up multiple pieces of equipment when it's really busy during busy times. And lastly, a big thing that I find a lot of people do that we probably shouldn't do is resting our weights on the benches. I know that this doesn't seem like a big deal, but those benches, the foam in them tends to deform over time. And if we're leaving weights on them constantly, it can tear up the padding and cause some issues there. So those are the big things. The last thing that I really tell people when they're first starting out that you might not think about, when you're first starting to lift heavy, and as you become more experienced and you're lifting towards the limits of your ability, you might ask somebody for a spot. You might say, hey, I'm lifting towards the end ranges of my ability. I want to have a little bit more safety. Can someone look out for me? And people in the gym are super friendly. They're super happy to help you out in these different types of things if you ask in the appropriate times and in the appropriate way.
Right.
What I mean by that is if a person is in the middle of their set and they're trying to work out, it's probably not the right move to be hovering right next to them, staring at them, or trying to talk to them while they're working out.
No, that's right. That's right.
Proper gym etiquette. You wait until they're done. They set the weights down. They're resting in between their sets. Walk over and say, hey, can you give me a spot on this? I'm looking to push, this many reps, and I would appreciate it if you could help me out here. And 99% of the time, people are very, very happy to help you out. Just make sure you're not interrupting them in the middle of when they're working.
Oh, yeah. I love helping people out. I love doing a spot for any of my friends, really. Anyone that needs it. Anyone at the gym's my friend,
Absolutely. I mean, it's a community, right? And I think that this is one of the things when people first start out, they don't realize. People in the gym are very happy to see you in there and very happy to support you, as long as you're not monopolizing equipment, messing things up, keeping things dirty. If you're not doing these different types of things, the more experienced people in the gym are only rooting for you. And that can help with some of the, I don't want to say fear, but anxiety that people get when they first start going to the gym, because people think when I first start going to the gym, everyone's going to look at me and everyone's going to judge me.
Right.
But
no one cares.
No, nobody cares. And in fact, this is the way that I explain it to people, and it sounds very terrible, but go with me here for a second. Okay. I always tell people that have this concern over being judged in the gym. One thing that I would say is nobody cares about you.
Nope.
And that feels terrible to hear until you realize that we all get a little bit focused on ourselves, right? We're all worried about our own lives, what we're doing, what's going on with school, what's going on with work, our social lives. We're all focused on ourselves. To somebody else, your person B from the first scene, they're the main actor. They're the focus.
Oh.
So because you're person B, you can use that to your advantage. You can realize, hey, they're not thinking about me 10 minutes after they leave here. They're not judging me. They don't really care what I'm doing. As long as I'm not disrupting things, as long as I'm not throwing the weights into the wall, as long as I'm not spitting on the floor, people don't really care what you do as long as you're being conscious of being nice to the other people in the gym. They're not judging you. They're too worried about themselves. So with this comes freedom of, hey, they're not judging me. They're not thinking about me. I can learn even when I'm first going in. I can make a few mistakes. And if you've got questions, this is where you use that same thing that I was talking about with when you're asking for a squat or for a spot. If you have a question about an exercise, most of the time people are very happy to help you out, particularly the more experienced guys, because the more experienced guys and girls, they want to say, hey, we want you to be safe. We want you to do this effectively. And we're very happy to share the information that we've learned over the years. When they're done a set and they're in their interset rest periods, they're resting between their working sets, you can go up and say, hey, it looked to me like you really know what you're doing. Can you give me a tip on what I'm trying to do over here? And people will really help you out. And so you've got all of these advantages of going in. You're this person B with all of this supporting staff that you didn't even really know that you had. And that can help cut through that anxiety in that first, 6 months or a year when you're really learning how to do something different that you've never done before.
Yeah, that's a great tip. And also because a lot of the times while Brick's lifting, I can't really see what my form looks like. And that person that's spotting me, they got a different angle, they got a different view, and probably have more experience in lifting anyways. So what I like to do is usually I'll say, hey, listen, if you see something I'm doing wrong, just let me know. Let me know, because I want to improve my form. I want to make sure it's good. But there's no such thing as perfect form, is there?
No, and actually, that's one of the biggest things that I think holds a lot of people back. Now, this is a little bit more for advanced people, but I think that for beginners, it's good to understand this. There is the idea of perfect form, and you will hear it a lot on YouTube and a lot of different Online physiotherapists love to throw this term out there. The problem is perfect form doesn't seem to work in real life, because perfect form in a textbook is a little bit different than perfect form for you. You've got different lever lengths, you've got different arm lengths, you've got different torso lengths, you've got different leg lengths. And so you may not be able to get into the position of perfect form as is written in a textbook. And that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. That doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong. That doesn't mean that your progress is going to be any worse. It just means you have to lift for your body. So learning to lift adequately and safely for your body's levers and your body shapes and the way that you move is really important. Once you do that, that's when, if you really want to progress, you start pushing intensity. You start trying to lift heavier and heavier and heavier over time, or to lift more reps or more sets, or whatever it is that you are doing to train your body to get better. Focus on adequate, comfortable form first, and then go to the races with pushing your intensity and your performance.
Right. We don't have to lift heavy. Not right out of the gate.
Well, we don't have to lift super heavy, particularly in that beginning period where you're starting to learn.
Right. Don't want to get hurt.
No, absolutely not. Over time, your body will adapt. And then, working towards close sets of failure, proximity to failure with your lifting sets, which means pushing the intensity in the rep range that you choose. I had said 4 to 10 reps. If you're doing something higher, that's perfectly fine. The important thing is over time, working on that and improving on that. And if you do that, you're going to progress just fine.
Right. Well, Dr. Sizzlin, I'm sure you hear excuses all the time why I can't go to the gym. And for somebody that's starting out, a lot of people, they think they need supplements right away, right? What's actually necessary for beginners, if anything at all? What do we think?
What's necessary for beginners is whole foods. That's what's necessary for beginners. There are no supplements that are necessary for beginners. There's certainly some supplements that could provide some benefits. There's certainly some supplements that could make you a little bit more motivated to get in, and it's different per person. But these types of things are not necessary. They provide ancillary benefits. They provide help to you when you're doing it. That isn't something that should be the main focus when you first start out. And all the basics that you hear about, creatine, protein, they can all have their place, but they don't make up for not following the right, getting in and being consistent and adherent with the training, being consistent with the whole minimally processed food diet, getting in adequate amounts of protein from foods, eating your fruits and veggies. All of these different things that we hear about are extremely important overall for health and progress. And these things are just kind of off to the side, can provide some benefits, but isn't the main thing that you should be focusing on when you first start out. The main thing that you should be focusing on is getting in and working out consistently and adherently, eating a good diet. And these other things should not be main focuses until you've got all that other stuff down.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense to me. People get too tripped up with what they think they need before getting started, because all they really need is to get started.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point. I mean, a lot of people think that they need to be highly motivated to get started, and that's actually not the case. You need a little bit of motivation. You need a reason to do it. Maybe you want to be better at playing the sport that you're playing. Maybe you're in middle school or you're in high school and you want to get better at a sport. Maybe you're an adult who wants to improve their performance. Maybe you want to be stronger for life. I mean, a lot of people will build strength because it can prevent muscle loss as we get older. It can make our bones stronger. It can make us better examples for our kids. And these are great reasons to get into it. But a lot of times we get into this mindset of, I'm going to start Monday, or I just don't really know how to get started, and therefore I'm not going to get started. I'm going to wait until everything's perfect, until I don't have school anymore, until I don't have, this busyness in my job. And what's really sad about that is actually hamstringing people from being successful. So rather than worrying about what we can't do by focusing on, we don't have the motivation or the time to be able to do this, the best thing that you can do is ask yourself, well, what can you do? And I like to call this all or something instead of all or nothing. What can you do today to get you started? And the really interesting thing about that is we wait for that motivation, but motivation is often the result of action, not the cause of it. Getting started even in small ways can often give us that motivation that we were waiting for all along. It's a snowball of momentum. It builds up and builds up and builds up. And the more that you get in and you exercise, even if you're only getting in and exercising 20 minutes per day, a lot of people will say, well, I only have 20 minutes, therefore I don't want to go in. No, go in. You're going to start building that motivation. You're going to start building that habit. It starts to build that routine, and it starts to build the identity that you're building around that, which is really, really important for long-term sustainability. So if we start to look at it as, what can I do today, rather than worrying about, oh, well, I can't have that perfect plan that I used to have in college when I didn't really have any responsibilities, we start to see a lot more success down the road, because we're getting ourselves those incremental steps that are necessary to be able to sustain this long term without losing the enthusiasm.
Now, I'm not going to pretend like I didn't hear that little pun you had about hamstringing, Dr. Sizzlin. Pretty good stuff.
I like to throw those in there occasionally.
That was good. That was good. But listen, do you think that people, just going off your point, do you think people need a set plan when they're getting started, or is there a better way, or should they just try out different workouts? What do you think? What would help?
This is going to depend on the person. And I think that there's a lot of different answers to this. And I think that the answer is what's going to motivate you the most to do it. Some people feel that plans are restrictive. Now, having a set plan is probably the best way for the most reliable progress. But it's not as important as just being active consistently. So if the only way that you feel comfortable is by going in and doing some exercises that day that you feel like doing and then going home, that is a perfectly fine way to get started.
Yeah.
And particularly when you aren't fully familiar with how to do exercises, this might be a situation where maybe hire a coach to begin with to help cut through a little bit of that unease, to cut through a little bit of the questions that you have in play. And get you with your foot weighted into the water, so to speak. But I think that a lot of people get focused on, well, what's the perfect split? Or, what is the perfect workout that I can do? And this causes indecision. The things that you really want to do to be successful in fitness and health and life is to remove as many barriers as possible. And so if you're focus here is, I have to find the absolute perfect thing or I'll never be happy and I'll never move forward, you're always going to be looking for what's next. It's always the grass is greener syndrome. And so rather than worrying about what's best and what's next, find somebody that you can trust, find a source, whether it's online, whether it's Coach Brick, whoever it is, and say, hey, look, help me out here. Give me a little bit of guidance, because people will often need that in the beginning. And I would not recommend, if you've never had any experience with the gym, I wouldn't recommend just walking in and doing things. I would say do a little bit of research and, find somebody online that has, a program that you can either get into pretty cheaply or a free program from somebody that you trust. And more benefit to that if there's some support there, if you can bounce questions off the person. And if you do that, you're going to set yourself up for a lot of success, because when you ask those questions, you're going to learn things that you didn't even know that you didn't know. And so by asking questions of trusted people like Coach Brick, you're going to have a great time moving forward. It's going to be less frustrating, and it's going to cut out some of those barriers of indecision, because if Coach Brick tells you to do it, you can say, okay, I don't have to stress over this. I know somebody that knows what they're talking about is recommending this. I'm just going to go in and I'm going to get it done. And
that's a great point.
That makes a lot of difference, because it cuts out the procrastination.
Well, that's the big thing. People procrastinate too much.
People procrastinate when they have too many decisions, when they think too much. It's that paralysis by overanalysis. So let's make things as simple as possible. And if you want to talk about what really works for performance, health, physique, everything that under the sun that people want to go for, it's all mastering the basics.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't need
the one thing. Oh, go ahead.
I was about to say, you don't need to do those crazy exercises that you see on Instagram. You don't need to do wild diets. They're all just these things that create noise in the space. Focus on what you can do that is simple, that will keep you going, and you're going to have a happy time.
Absolutely. Now, it's been a while since I started at the gym. I'm sure you feel the same. We go to the gym pretty regularly. We both look great. Now, muscle soreness is something that's pretty brutal those first few weeks, right? Probably get some people to cancel their memberships because they think they did something wrong or it's never going to get any better. What's the best way to recover and keep going when you're feeling like that? Because, man, it sucks. It sucks when you first start.
It does, but what's really funny is the more experienced that you become, you almost start to miss that a little bit. And that's just a sign. You're
telling me. You're telling me. Oh, I can't wait. I've been thinking maybe I'll stop going to the gym for a couple weeks just to get it again. You know, I miss it.
So first, let's understand what causes this, because if we can understand what causes this, we can mitigate a lot of this problem, and then we can talk about some solutions, even if we do get into this, to help make it easier, right? So the main things that cause this are a novel stimulus. You're doing something new that you've never done before. This is the number one thing that causes this. This happens when you're first starting to weight train because you've never weight trained before. And so it's a novel stimulus. Right. Your body's not used to this type of thing. Genetically, this happens in different people, in different muscles to different extents. For some people, their legs feel a lot more soreness than their shoulders or their chest. And if you find that you have a genetic predisposition to doing this, that muscle is probably always going to get a little bit more sore than some of the other muscles, just because that's the way that it is for you. Nothing you can do about that. Nothing wrong with it. Yeah. The other two main things that will cause this, well, three main things that will cause this significantly more. If you are using more eccentric movements, and that's just a fancy science term to say, if you lower the weights more slowly, it will cause more soreness. That doesn't mean that the results are better. The results are not better from doing that very slowly. Now, you want to control the lowering, but it doesn't need to be more than 1 or 2 seconds. If you're doing it really slowly, people do that all the time because they think, wow, if I'm going really, really slow, I feel really sore, therefore it's really working. No, it works the same as just controlling it 1 or 2 seconds, but it causes a lot more soreness, so it's harder to recover from. The other two things, if you're dehydrated, you will get sore more readily. So it's really important for us to drink water. For adults, I don't have a recommendation for kids for this. I will usually tell kids just drink when you're thirsty. For adults, I find that with stress, with things like pregnancies, all these other things, we kind of get discordant thirst cues. Our ability to feel thirst is thrown off a little bit. And so
what do you mean?
My recommendation for it is 100 ounces of water spread throughout the day. And if you're thirsty beyond that, drink more. When we talk about discordant thirst cues, what I mean is your body may need more water than what your thirst is telling you need. I find that happens a lot. And then the last thing, if you've taken care of all of these other things that we've talked about, if you've stopped doing quite as much eccentric movement, if it's been a few weeks that you've been in a training program, and you're still getting excessively sore, if you're hydrated, then what that suggests is that the volume of your program is too high. You're doing too much work too soon. And this happens all the time with people that are first starting out working out. And that's, again, this is why I'm emphasizing get a coach like Coach Britt from the start. Because if you just pick up...
You hear that?
This I'm not even being paid to push this.
And this is a paid program.
It is.
I can't put this on public access now.
That's right.
They're going to tell me, no, you're plugging Coach Brick too much. Well, go on, plug me more.
Well, so the funny thing about this is, if you get a program from online, say that you go to like ChatGPT, say that you go to like Muscle and Fitness, the problem with these things are they're often training protocols that have been made by professional bodybuilders.
Oh, yeah.
And they may not be appropriate for you. They may not even be appropriate for any natural athlete. And so when we start to see people getting in, particularly people getting in for the first time, they think, oh man, this real big professional, or this, professional athlete even runs this training protocol, therefore it should be appropriate for me. It doesn't translate to you. And that doesn't mean that it won't ever translate to you. That means it's not appropriate right now, because that professional athlete, whether they're a bodybuilder or a baseball player or a basketball player, we can say that they've probably been working out for many, many years, which means their body is adapted. It's adapted to handle more stress. It's adapted to handle more volume. It's adapted to handle more load. You're not quite there yet, and that's okay. We all get there if you just stay consistent. But that also means that if you try to do those programs off the bat, you're going to be excessively sore, and you may even be excessively sore to the point where you actually slow your progress. And that can be very frustrating. So what I want to do is I want to give you permission as somebody that is first starting to work out to have a program with slightly lower volume, to have less distinct pressure on yourself to lift the way a professional athlete would lift. Because if you start out in the appropriate volume and manner that you should be, you can build up with that over time, and you'll build up faster than any other way. If you're constantly fighting with this super intense soreness, then it might be a sign that you're having some issues with the volume that you're putting into your program. And that can lead to things like injury and mental burnout and just not wanting to do it. And so this is where people can really benefit from some professional guidance, because this is the type of thing that will be thought about in the programming that you won't get by just pulling Google.
Right. You nailed it right on the head.
So
many people, they burn themselves out in that first month, just overdoing it, overthinking it. Take it easy.
Well, oftentimes we'll never be more motivated than the day we start, right?
Right.
And that's one of the reasons why we get started. Now, we know that we want to start because we have these outcomes that we want from it. We want to get better at sports. We want to be healthier. We want to live longer. We want to be a good example for our kids. And all of these things are wonderful reasons to get started. We want to look better in a bathing suit. And I want to point that one out for the adults in the audience, because there is literally nothing wrong with wanting that. That doesn't mean it's your only reason, but it can be a reason to get you started. Now, if you get started in a way that is doable for you, that focuses on the right things, that sets out the right expectations, you're going to have a lot more fun. And you're going to start to benefit from this more long term. And the big thing about this is making a lifelong change. This is not a season of health. This is a lifestyle change of health. Now, for kids, this is wonderful for you because you don't have to fight through all of the decades of bad habits that us adults have to. But these habits that we have, even if we consider them not productive, the good thing about them is habits are not genetic. These are learned, which means you can unlearn them and you can learn productive habits. And as long as you give yourself time and grace to do that, you're going to be really successful over time. And this is a little bit nerdy. So kids, forgive me for this one, but for the adults in here, I think that this can really, really benefit people.
Let's hear it.
When we look at habit formation and these types of things, we will often hear people say things like, oh, it takes 30 days to learn a habit, or it takes 90 days to learn a habit, or whatever it is. Different people will say different things.
Right.
When we actually look at the research, it looks like to form 95% of a habit, it takes between 18 and 256 days of doing it consistently.
That's a lot.
It's a huge range. And this is different based off of, how people react to things, their mental state, whether they're mentally positive about it or not, whether they feel like they can do it, whether they feel capable, because feeling competent in something really, really enhances this. A positive mindset really makes a big difference. But I want to point this out because for those people that are trying to make this lifestyle change, and they're like, well, I always heard that it was 30 days to make a lifestyle change or make a habit change, and I'm at day 45 and now I feel like a failure. You're not a failure. You have a lot more time. And even more important in this research, this was with consistently doing the habits, but occasionally screwing up doesn't throw this off as long as you get back on track the very next chance that you have. What I mean by that is, if you are somebody that wants to go to the gym and you set a goal for yourself, I'm going to go 3 days this week. Great. That's wonderful. That's a goal that you can roughly control. But 1 week, you only made it 2. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Don't ruminate over it. Just get back to 3 days a week next week. And it's not going to throw off your habit formation at all. The only
don't fall off.
Yeah,
don't fall off because of 2 days.
No, that's like having a bank account and losing $2 in it. So you say, okay, well, that's enough. I'm just going to throw away the rest of the $100,000 else that I have in there. There's no reason to do that. That'd be crazy. Yeah, it would be. And we never think about it that way, but we often think about it with this type of thing because fitness and nutrition can sometimes feel hard. And when things feel hard in the moment, it could feel better for us. It can relieve stress if we say, okay, well, I'm just not going to do that anymore. I'm going to quit. But if you quit, you're not teaching yourself how to get through these hard times, which is a critical skill to be able to do this long term. You're teaching yourself how to quit. So rather than learning to hit the pause button on health, you start to ask yourself, what can I do today? This is that all or something versus all or nothing. And if you start to look at these instances where you in the past would have said, oh, I failed, you shift that to, hey, this is a learning experience for me. And, the kids that are listening, this is really good for you too, because just like when you were learning to play basketball, did you start out shooting free throws and hit 90% free throws? No, you were terrible when you started out, but that's okay because you got better over time. The same thing happens with adults, and adults don't even realize it. And this is where you can help out your parents in these situations, because it's really interesting how this mindset shift, we kind of lose it because we're harder on ourselves than somebody else.
Exactly.
And if somebody else told you, if a friend of yours said, I'm going to start to work on 3 days working out per week. I've done it for an entire month. On week 5, I only went 2 days. I failed. As a third person, you would look at them and you'd say, what are you talking about? Right. You did so much for that entire first month. You only missed 1 day. Just get back into it. And a lot of people will think, oh, well, I need to punish myself. Now I need to go 4 days next week. No, you don't. Just get back into the routine that you have. If you've got an extra day and you want to do it, sure. And if it's mentally healthy for you, sure, do that. But don't ever punish yourself in fitness and health. Use it as a way to add to your life. And this is in both fitness and nutrition. Use the activity levels to remove stress in your life, to make you feel more confident, to make you feel better in a bathing suit, to make you feel better and stronger. Use things in nutrition to add to your life. It's not, I'm giving up, a chocolate bar. Maybe you're going to eat less chocolate bars, but you can still have some. But instead of thinking about it of, I've got to get rid of my chocolate bars, you think about it as, how can I add in more fruits and vegetables? Because when we start to look at this from an abundance mindset rather than a restriction mindset, it makes all the difference for how we feel about ourselves, how we feel about the process, and how successful we'll be long term.
That's a great tip. You know what else helps me
What's
get into the gym? Makes it better? A good playlist. Good playlist.
And there's never been an easier time, right? When
right.
I don't know how old you are, but when I was growing up, we had to bring in our Walkmans, and we had to burn.
I remember
we had to burn CDs, and now we've got Spotify, we've got all these other things that we can use, and this brings up another really good point that may not be directly related to the questioning line that we had here, but one that fits organically here. So I'm going to bring it up.
All right, cool.
A lot of people. This might be a little bit more appropriate for the adults in the audience. A lot of people find it difficult to do some things that they know that they probably should be doing. I think that we know that we should probably have a couple days of cardio in our lives. It is really helpful to have those different types of things in from a health perspective. And not everybody loves cardio, but that's okay.
No.
We can use a technique called temptation pairing. Have you ever heard of this, Brick?
Temptation pairing.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me more.
Temptation pairing suggests that we're more likely to do things that we need to do if we pair them with things that we want to do. So in the beginning, we might look at cardio or eating right, food prep, as something that we need to do. We know that it's good for us, right, even though we're not necessarily trained or used to doing it. So why don't we pair that with something that we enjoy doing? And so if we're saying, hey, my coach said I need to get more steps, or I need to do a little bit more cardio. Well, okay. Go to the gym, hop on the treadmill, take your iPad or your iPhone or whatever you have, and turn on Netflix. Watch the Netflix show that you were going to watch in the evening anyways, but do it while you're doing your cardio. It will breeze by so quickly. You will be entertained. It has never been easier to do these different types of things. I mean, with nutrition, we can do things like turn on Netflix on our TV, pop the Instant Pot on, make an entire amount of chicken or rice or potatoes for an entire week while we're doing other things. This makes your life a lot easier. And this also helps, particularly for you busy parents, because, your time is special, right? I mean, there's only so much time that you have in a day. That means that you have different challenges than other people. It doesn't mean that you have no time to work out. It means you have to be better with the time that you do have. And so by using these concurrent things, including temptation pairing, you can get things done that you need to get done while also opening some time up to get in that 20 or 30 minute workout. And like I said, if 20 or 30 minutes is all that you can get in, that's okay. because you're doing better than if you were just sitting on the couch. It's going to add to your life. It's going to remove stress, and it's going to give you all those benefits that you're looking to get.
And hey, steps are reps too. Don't forget it.
Yeah. Steps are one of the best things that you can possibly do to stay active, to increase lifespan, to prevent excess fat gain, to keep body fat off. And, steps are included in a thing called, I'm going to get in a science term here, non-exercise activity thermogenesis, or NEAT. It is a fancy way of saying all of the movement that you do during the day that is not dedicated exercise. So it is the movement that you do at school. It's the movement that you do at work. It's just walking from the parking lot into the grocery store. All of that stuff adds up. Now, I think what people don't realize is it adds up in a big way. And it adds up in a big way from anywhere like 400, 500 calories per day in very, very sedentary people to 2,000 calories per day in very active people. People with agricultural jobs, if you work on a farm, you could be burning 2,000 extra calories per day.
You're walking all day.
Yeah, on top of the energy that you just burn living. And so we can use this to our advantage. And we can use this to our advantage in a lot of different ways. And people, when I bring up step count, they'll say, oh, well, staying active can be kind of difficult for me. And I think that this can be a beneficial thing for both kids and adults, because I used this when I was going through medical school. One of the tricks that I used was every hour I had an alarm go off and I would walk for 5 minutes. Now, this is great because it really adds that step count in busy days. And a lot of us these days have these remote jobs where we're relatively sedentary, where we're having these issues with getting activity levels in like we used to in the past. And by incorporating some of these little tricks, all of a sudden it becomes a lot easier in your life. And this also adds into those, those people that say, oh, well, I don't have any time to do this type of thing. But it's because they didn't really know the options that they had. And if maybe they were taking that time to get up and walk every hour for 5 minutes, then they wouldn't feel like they needed to walk 45 minutes every evening when it feels overwhelming, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I know that this can feel difficult for people in a busy lifestyle, but I want to emphasize this. When you get up and you get moving, particularly in, say, your work day, it oxygenates your brain. It makes you more effective when you get back into work for the time that you put in. And so you become more creative. You become more focused. Your work increases in speed and efficiency. This works for kids too. Hey, you're studying for long periods of time. Maybe you're getting into high school for the first time and you're getting into finals for the first time, midterms, all those different types of things. You don't need to study for 6 straight hours. Get up, move around, set these alarms. There's all these different protocols and tactics that you can use, but a really easy one is that hour, walk around for 5 minutes. It makes all the difference in your memory, in your ability to handle these different things, and in your health.
That's great. Mm-hmm. What a great tip. That's a great way to end this episode. You got to get those steps in. You got to get the movement. That's really all you need just to get started.
Absolutely.
But hey, Dr. Sizzlin, before I let you go, what's on your workout playlist? What songs are there?
Oh, God. I have such an eclectic music taste that this is going to be kind of weird. I mean, I listen to La Castlevania, which is electronica. I'm getting picked on, man. Electronica. Have you ever seen, this is going to be weird for this one. Have you seen John Wick movies?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
So the music in John Wick movies, there's a lot of La Castlevania, that kind of like really high powered electronica music. There's one called Wet Work. There's one called Blood Code, and they tend to be very great for working out too.
Now, do you imagine you're in those movies or what?
So whenever I try to lift weights, I do something that I don't necessarily recommend for everybody, but if it works for you, that's great. I actually try to make myself a little bit angry before I lift because I feel like if I'm too calm, I mean, I've seen some people in my gym in Hawaii. Hawaii is really big about the reggae music. It calms me down too much. And then I can't lift the weights pretty heavy. And so I want to get some energy going. And that really helps me to get that energy flowing.
Well, hey, Dr. Sizzlin, when you go to the gym tomorrow, just remember this. Brick is bigger than you.
Oh my God. That's why you get to wear the tank tops.
You're right. What are you even doing that hoodie? You're in Hawaii.
I'm hiding.
It's supposed to be warm.
It's a pump cover.
Oh, okay. Respect. But hey, listen, Dr. Sizzlin, thanks for being a guest on Reppin' Fitness.
Thank you, Brick. Let's get those reps.
That's what I'm talking about. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you.
Brick Headstrong! Brick Headstrong! He's got the reps to you! He's got the reps to you! Brick Headstrong!